gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 13th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, brought to you today by GameTime.co, your headquarters for all your ticket purchases and needs, no matter the event. If you need tickets for the Louisville game on Saturday, GameTime.co or the GameTime app can help you. NBA games, NFL games, concerts, theater, anything you want to go to in the United States, GameTime.co will help you get the best seats for the best price. We'll talk a little bit more about Game Time later in the show. But Matt Shodell, sun came up this morning somehow, some way. Came up yesterday morning somehow, some way. Kind of wish it hadn't come up yesterday. Had a little bit of a rough day getting from Tallahassee to Jacksonville and flight delays and very upset Hurricane fans everywhere I went. And but today the sun did come up, and now Miami is on to a new adventure of this week when they face Louisville on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. But listen, we got to unpack some things. I thought that, and I'm going to try not to be long-winded because people are timing us, and they say I am talking too much on this show that I have to give Matt Shodell more airtime. So I'm going to try to be cognizant of that and be on my best behavior today. But anyway, so here were some general thoughts I have. I mean, the improvement that this program has made this year is undeniable, okay? The defense lost its two best defensive ends. We talked before the season how challenged the personnel was, yet it is playing at an incredible level. And Lance Guidry is doing an amazing job as defensive coordinator, massively better than Kevin Steele last year. And it is so good that I think it is bringing a magnified attention on perhaps how poorly Shannon Dawson is doing with the offense. And I don't feel that there's that many I feel like there's a lot of similarities in terms of the issues and the personnel and the depth, maybe not being anywhere close to as good as you would want it. Not a lot of elite personnel on this team, but Lance Guidry is doing massively more with what he has on defense than Shannon Dawson is doing with what he has on offense. And it is becoming a problem. I think it is emerging as an issue, as sensitive as it might be. I mean, Shannon Dawson's a great dude. He really is. I mean, we love working with him. He's great, but he has let Mario Cristobal down this year. You know, Mario Cristobal needs his coordinators performing the way Lance Guidry is performing. And Shannon Dawson's not performing. He's not performing as a quarterback's coach, and he's not performing as a coordinator. And it's very frustrating for everybody. And I'm sensing a lot of frustration right now amongst the fans, amongst boosters, amongst everybody, quite frankly. And it's becoming a bit of a problem. So I thought that the end of the first half was managed very poorly. And that's not just, it's not just okay. Like, it's not just okay to mismanage that and settle for a field goal instead of possibly getting a touchdown. You're in a close game on the road at Florida State, and you can't leave points on the field. I thought the 2-minute offense at the end of the game was non-existent. I couldn't understand it. And those two things bothered me the most. I mean, you get the ball back with 4 minutes left. And what are you doing? Writing a story while I'm talking? How are you going to comment?
I'm making notes on all the things you're saying because you don't let me talk. Okay. So I'm trying to write down what you're saying.
Right, let me hurry up because I got to give you equal time.
So I can respond. I'm writing down the notes.
Let me finish because I'm very sensitive about this today.
Yeah. I'll try to type quieter.
Listen, I got blistered on the YouTube comments end of last week for not allowing you to speak enough. So I got to be more aware of that.
Nobody wants to hear me either.
The last thing I'm going to say in this particular monologue that I'm putting together here is that I was stunned. It started with Emory Williams, the quarterback. Then he got hurt. Then Tyler came in. But they got the ball back with 4 minutes left. You got to be thinking, I need a touchdown to tie the game. I need 2 scores to win the game. In that situation, you have got to have a hurry-up offense they haven't needed it basically all season long. I mean, whatever they've been practicing, and I got to assume they've been practicing it, this was time to roll it out. Your scripted 2-minute offense that every team in football practices constantly, and they never were able to do that. And they had 4 minutes left in the game. By the time the clock hit around the 2-minute mark, they were still like around their own 20-yard line. They ran the ball on second down, which I didn't understand. And the entire thing, as we know, blew up. They got a couple first downs on passes to Colby Young on the sideline, and then tried the same exact pass a third time. FSU makes adjustments. They did a great job adjusting to the run game earlier in the game when Miami hit those 3 great runs. To sum it all up so I can let Matt speak, I felt Miami was good enough to win this football game. I thought the effort of the kids was unbelievable. I mean, I salute every single one of them. God bless them for how hard they're playing. They're coming back from disappointments all season. They give it their all. They were good enough to win that game yesterday. But what wasn't good enough is they didn't play a complete game. They had 1 breakdown on special teams. They had 1 breakdown on defense. And that was probably FSU had a breakdown on defense too, quite frankly, on that 85-yard passing play that allowed the passing yardages to look respectable. Instead of about 120, they were just over 200. But the point I'm making is they're just not quite playing a complete game. It would have taken a complete game to get out of there with a victory. I feel terrible for the coaches. I feel terrible for the players, but that doesn't negate the obvious issues and problems that are big picture issues now that Mario Cristobal must reconcile very quickly, because this thing is going to turn from playing football games to recruiting very, very fast here in a couple of weeks, and they can't go by the wayside. All right, Matt, you got 6 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to read what I was typing. So everything you have said is wrong, including letting Matt speak more. And I'm not kidding. Everything said is wrong because you're looking at one game and the Florida State game. And I know fans are all fixated on beating Florida State. It's not a successful season if you don't do it. It is a successful season to some extent if you do. But at this point in the season, at this point in the program, at some point you have to look back and say, okay, that year was an inflection point, and that's where the rise started. And really all people want to know, all fans want to know is that now? Is that this year? And with 2 games left and a bowl game, we pretty much know where the program stands. So, you're 6 minutes talking about the FSU game and how they were so close. And stuff. Nobody cares about that at this point. Everyone watched the game. They all know what happened. So I'm going to talk about what people actually want to hear, which is, what I think needs to happen for this team to be a major winner. Because let's face it, Mario Cristobal has 2 years left, right? Next year could be his final year. If he has a terrible year, that's not going to happen. He's going to be good. Dude, but he needs to win 9 or 10 games next year. And then
people got to stop thinking like that. Yeah, do you see what Texas A&M did yesterday?
I thought you said I had 6 minutes.
70. I'm going to add to your time. They gave Jimbo Fisher $76 million to leave. Like, are you kidding me? We got to get away from that here. We can't keep starting over. Go ahead. I just gave you an extra 30 seconds, so you got about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Look, I don't care what other
actually
programs
5 minutes and 10 seconds. Go.
All right, so you can cut me off whenever that's up. I don't care what other programs are doing. I cover Miami. You can cover Texas A&M all you want. At the University of Miami, there's a standard, and if you don't hit the standard, if you're that bad and doing that badly, and the trend is downward after 3 to 4 years as the head coach, your booster support dries up. Your recruiting dries up. That's why Miami has started winning next. What, Gary?
Can I call timeout for a second?
I don't care. Go ahead. Talk all you want.
No, I'm just going to ask a question, and then you can continue. Do you feel like the trend is downward this year? Because I don't.
You don't listen to me. I'm trying to talk about next year because fans don't care about this year anymore. Next year, I keep saying next year. Why don't you take notes like I do so you don't interrupt constantly? And
I'm taking notes.
That's what I do while you talk. That's why you talk for 20 minutes. And then I respond because I write down everything you say so I can respond to it. I'm not talking about this year. Next year, if Miami wins 3 games, Gary, there's going to be a huge problem for Mario Cristobal. All I'm saying is they need to win 9+ games next year. And then they really need to be competing for the playoffs the year after that because that's his 4th year in the system. Florida State coach, Mike Norvell, his first 2 years were really bad. Then he won 10 games, and now he's probably going to be in the playoffs. There's a proven track record of coaches who are really good coaches that take over bad programs, and if they're not good within 4 years of taking over those programs, the chances they're going to be great after that aren't too much up there because you're starting to lose recruiting, you're starting to lose the fan base, you're starting to lose the booster money, you're starting to lose it in every aspect when you're not good within 4 years, which is why coaching changes happen, like Jimbo Fisher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, with that said, that's why I'm not focusing on the FSU game. Here's what I know, or I think I know, based on what I've seen last year and this year and knowing Mario and knowing the coaches pretty well and what they're doing. Okay, Lance Guidry is an amazing defense coordinator. Miami has to do whatever it can to hold on to him. He will be pushed for by other programs. To be a defensive coordinator, he's not going to be pushed for to be a head coach. That's when you can't keep a guy. So Miami just has to make sure that some other major program doesn't grab him. His system here is fantastic. The players love him. And Manny Diaz, as much as people hate him, Manny Diaz is a great defense coordinator. Lance Guidry's right there with him, and I think his scheme actually works better here than Manny Diaz's for the type of player you can recruit and get. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing Mario has going for him is young talent. The young talent that he brought in this last recruiting class and he'll bring in this recruiting class, I think is excellent. Some people may disagree because we haven't seen a lot of it. Some people might think Emory Williams didn't look good, but he was playing against Florida State and Clemson, the 2 best defenses talent-wise. Mind he's playing all year, and he's a true freshman, and 1 game's on the road. So fans were like, he misfired some passes, whatever. The heart, the grit that I don't want to say kid, so that player, Emory Williams, showed. When's the last time you saw a quarterback do that at Miami? Like, just lay his life on the line, his career on the line, basically. I mean, he was holding his arm out, waiting for his arms to be broken for like 10 seconds, just trying to get the nose of that ball across that first down marker on 4th down. He cares. And you know what I saw when he was actually playing? I saw a replay. He's smiling. He's smiling during a game. He's having fun. When a quarterback does that, it's infectious. I can't remember Tyler Van Dyke. I don't think, I'm sure he's had a lot of Botox because his mouth doesn't curve up. I've never seen it curve up. This is a young man who, whether you like how he played or don't like how he played, all the reports from practice are he's been amazing. Practices has been amazing. I agree he didn't have a great game. But, fans on the message boards are saying he has no future here because he didn't throw enough accurate passes. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's got all the intangibles. In practices, he has all the tangibles. And, next year, do you need to bring in a free agent quarterback? Yes, of course. Tyler Van Dyke's career here, in my opinion, is over. Ja'Carri Brown, I think, will transfer. You only have 2 quarterbacks now, if that happens. One being Emory Williams, who's coming off, obviously, the major left arm injury, thank gosh. And the other will be a true freshman, obviously, next year. So you got to bring in a high-level free agent quarterback. And, people talk about Michael Pratt from Tulane, but there's going to be names that emerge. Miami will definitely be in that free agent market. And there will be a lot of people that want to come here because if Miami can keep the wide receiver core intact, those guys are all coming back. And you could see in this game what Jacoby George can do. You know what Ray Joseph will be able to do. Brashard Smith may decide he doesn't want to stay here anymore because they're not using him the way he wants. But Brashard Smith is explosive. Xavier Restrepo, I don't know what happens there because when Tyler's not the quarterback, he just disappears and it's weird. I don't know what happens with Xavier. But you have Colby Young, big body. You got some other guys on that roster who are pretty good at receiver. I think Isaiah Horton also has a very bright future, by the way. So the young talent's there. The defense is there. To me, the biggest thing now is I'm going to go ahead and say what nobody else will say out loud. That's a reporter. I don't think Shannon Dawson should be back or will be back because Mario Cristobal has already shown that he has no problem making changes after a season when he goes through all that film and he knows what he knows and he sees what he sees and he knows it's not a good fit. Shannon Dawson he's just not the right fit for this offense, the type of downfield passing attack Miami will need to have because he just seems like a one-trick pony that works at a Houston where, and he's admitted it himself, he doesn't ever have a running game. His problem's always been the run game. How does that work with Mario Cristobal as your head coach? A guy who is an offensive coordinator who's never had a good run game, and when your head coach demands that to be your strength, which it now is. And now you have a play caller who's used to not having a strong run game, who has to call run plays. And it's just constantly running up the middle. He doesn't know how to call innovative run plays. He's never had to do it before. He's never tried to do it before because he's only run spread offenses. He's being asked to put a round peg in a square hole, which if the square hole is big enough, it works. But when you're playing these close contests every game, the square hole is not big enough. So they need to find a power type offense coach, because truth be told, nobody else is going to get along with Mario, and you need the head coach and the offense coordinator to be in tandem, to not be butting heads with play calls. They just need to have a power run game with a little bit of spread to it and a little bit of downfield passing game to it, because that's what's going to work here, and that's not what Shannon Dawson runs, unfortunately. Okay, it is what it is, and Shannon Dawson also has done no favors in the quarterback's room. You can see Tyler Van Dyke regressed somehow during the season and got worse. That's never good when you're the offense coordinator and quarterback's coach and that happens. You combine that with an offensive system, with an offense that can't move the ball, with a square peg round hole. Well, the opposite, I guess, is what I said. And to me, there has to be a change. If Mario doesn't make a change, I think that could set the program back a year. So that's my own personal opinion of what will happen. And again, with in mind that I think Mario has 2 years left to get this right. That's all he's got. Okay, 4-year window, or fans and recruits are like, bye-bye. And you don't want another Randy Shannon, Al Golden, Mark Richt, and Manny Diaz. You don't want it to be a fifth, quote-unquote failure where you have to replace a guy. And I don't think it's going to happen. I have, negative Matt still feels really good about things. Like, I still think that this program will be in the playoffs in the next 2 years. I honestly believe that, just because of what I know Mario can accomplish with a work ethic like no other, with his recruiting skills like no other, and with a couple of tweaks on offense. Mainly, you got to have an elite quarterback and a play calling offense coordinator that Mario respects and won't try to make you run the ball every time when you actually can make some plays down the field and things like that. So that's just how I feel about things.
All right. Let the record show that I'm now 200.
You behaved yourself extremely. You were like a stone crab. You were just sitting there like this, trying to get away from me, but you couldn't. And by the way, when stone crabbing on Saturday morning, it went a lot better than the Miami Hurricanes game.
Yeah, you took some pictures, which
yes, I did. Yeah, it was quite the haul. I've never had as big a haul as that ever. It was ridiculous, honestly.
We'll show them tomorrow. I got to get them loaded up and into the system, and we'll show them.
Show them it all. I just think you could be jealous.
Way too many more important things to talk about here than stone crabs today. All right. I took notes while you're talking, so I'm going to try to like go through some of the stuff that you were talking about. Some of it I agreed with, some of it didn't. Okay. Where did you come up with this winning 3 games for next year? Like, where the hell did that? Like, I know
you hypothetical.
I know you live in the world of negativity to the max, and I get it.
You know what a hypothetical is? I said if, not it will happen. I said if, and then I said it doesn't. I don't expect it to happen.
Yeah, but why would you even say that? Like, why would this? Why would they win 3 games next year? They're going to go in the portal. They're going to go in the portal with $1 million check. Okay, that's what it's going to take, and they're going to go try to land the top quarterback in the portal. All right, now will they be successful? I don't know, but you have to go try to land the top quarterback in the portal. You can't just say Emery is our quarterback of the future. We don't know that for sure. Okay, that's the first thing. So you got to get a franchise quarterback for next year. Tyler, well, I can't even begin to think he would come back. I know what his NIL deal was this year, and it's a lot. And I don't want to muddy the waters by saying how much it is, but it was a lot. And I can't even begin to imagine that they would pay even a minimal percentage of that next year. He will get a better deal to go somewhere else. He needs the fresh start, I believe. He did not respond well to Shannon Dawson's coaching. Didn't respond well to Josh Gaddis's coaching either. I think the end of the road for Tyler has come at Miami. Unfortunately, he's a great kid and did not deserve it to go this way. But it's a big boy game. It's a business, and he'll be fine. He's in a good place. At least off the field. So we'll see where he goes or what he does. I would be shocked if he's back next year. So I think they got to go to the portal, get a franchise quarterback. They need to go get 2 elite wide receivers. Okay, enough of this already. This is I couldn't disagree with you more on what you said about the receivers. Okay, they're okay. Okay, and if ever that was not on display to a greater degree, it was Saturday afternoon, evening at Doak Campbell Stadium. Okay, FSU's defensive backs that I don't even know how great they are. They owned Miami's receivers in that game. And I know there were a couple wayward Emory passes that he would have loved to have back. Restrepo once or twice and things like that. I know supposedly Tyler missed Restrepo on the last play. Restrepo was open. Okay, whatever. For the most part, in that game, Florida State's defensive backs owned Miami's receivers. They couldn't get off the line of scrimmage. They could not get separation. Some people call it the hand game and the jostling between defensive backs and wide receivers. Florida State's defensive backs were stronger than Miami's receivers, and Miami's receivers couldn't get into their routes well enough. They couldn't get separation on their routes. These guys are complementary receivers, okay? Xavier Restrepo, as great as he is when Tyler's throwing the ball to him, could not play at Florida State right now. Colby Young, same thing. As good as he is in moments here at Miami against certain levels of competition, could not play at Florida State. Jacoby George, as great as that game was the other night, Jacoby George is a product of Miami needing him to get the ball a lot. Probably would not be playing at Florida State. Okay, Florida State very quickly has set the bar for Miami. They did it by owning the transfer portal, but it doesn't matter how they did it. They have done it. You see the season they're having this year. It's going to be interesting to see how it ends when they have to go against the big boys. We'll find out how good they really are. But right now, they are the class of the ACC. They have a lot of really good players, and they set the bar for at least right now for Miami. Miami's got to get to the Florida State level before it can take sights on Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama. To sum all that up, I mean, the program is in a much better place today than it was a year ago at this time. And the progress is undeniable. And what's most important is that the people that matter the most, which to me are the people bankrolling the program right now, because everybody's got them and everybody's got NIL now. And these people are literally giving money away. Okay. There's no tax breaks. They are donating to a collective and just basically playing Santa Claus with their money. They are giving it away. Okay, I don't know too many people that like just giving money away. These people didn't get rich because they give their money away, but they must stay the course. I know some of them are getting frustrated. For whatever reason, they expected better results this year. They almost had them. I mean, we're not going to relive the whole season, but they almost had them. Miami very easily could have a couple more victories right now if certain things had gone differently, because the program is much better and the team is much better. But these people that are bankrolling the program right now must stay on board without question. They just got to keep recruiting. They just got to keep building bricks the way they have been. And I think that you will see continued progress. The roster next year, could be better than it is this year if certain things bounce their way. They're going to have a hard time getting the elite guys. Okay, let's face it. They're probably not getting Jeremiah Smith. Florida State might. Florida State made a big move with Jeremiah Smith. We got a story on the website this morning about it. We'll be continuing to pursue that this week. Coming into this week, Miami seemed to most be competing with Ohio State for Jeremiah Smith. They're now competing with Florida State. It's a problem. Let's face it. It's a problem. Florida State has advanced. Florida State was the better looking team at Doak Campbell Stadium, which was packed with recruits. It is what it is. Mario Cristobal is going to have a massive recruiting challenge ahead of him because of that. But there's plenty of players. Like, it's not like everybody, Florida State's not signing everybody. So just keep building bricks. Now, like I said, I don't know where you got this 3-game thing from. I mean, that's like pure ridiculousness. Now,
it was a tongue in cheek to say if they did terrible next year,
Okay.
that would be that. But that's not going to happen. Obviously, Gary, they have an easy schedule. They're going to win. They should win at least 9 games.
I
If
agree.
they do significantly worse, it's a problem. That's all I was trying to say. I picked the number 3 just because my brain works very quickly and in horrible fashion.
And I hope some people
nitpick on one number.
Well, because I just said, what the heck is this guy?
I just spent a really bad season. I picked the number 3 just because it's.
I don't know where you came up with that number, but anyway.
Look, I saw your IQ test score, and I just went with the number. I mean, what do you want from me? It is what it is.
All right, let me move on. All right, Emory Williams. Okay, here's something, and I agree with all the comments about Emory Williams, but the speed of the game that he saw on Saturday night at Saturday afternoon, evening at Doak Campbell, he'd never seen before in his life. Like that game, even the Clemson game, was not played at the tempo that this Miami-Florida State game, or the intensity that Miami-Florida State was being played at. Okay, that it's a learning experience. My thing was, if that passing game offense that we saw Saturday, as horrendous as it was at many levels, was the best that Miami was going to be able to put on the field with Emory Williams, I'm not sure they should have started Emory Williams, Matt. I mean, I know everyone's frustrated about Tyler, and he's been playing like absolute, doo-doo, no arguments at all. But like, Tyler is more equipped to run a more complex passing game right now than Emory Williams. Tyler has been out there for multiple seasons. The speed of the game is not going to deter him. It's picking out the right place to go with the football. That's been his problem. So I'm not sure. I tried to ask Mario after the game a little bit and got barked at, because it looked to me like they had to dial back the offense. And I tried to, get him to discuss that a little bit, because I knew what kind of topic of conversation it would be after the game. And, he didn't like the question. But, look, he was frustrated. That's as upset as I've seen Mario Cristobal Saturday night after that game. And understandably, like, that's how bad he wanted to win it. That's how bad he wanted better. And they were so close, but so far. And but if that was the best, let's assume Shannon Dawson is not a bad offensive coordinator. And Matt, I agree with you totally. The jury is absolutely out. Okay. But let's assume for a minute he's not a bad offensive coordinator. Then that means he dialed back his offense to the most basic elementary level. And there was no chance that you were going into Doak Campbell Stadium and winning that game playing like that. They got the 185-yard touchdown when Florida State's 2 defenders ran into each other. That allowed it to be 7. It probably was a 14-point differential type of game, realistically. And if Lance Guidry's defense doesn't play lights out all night, Florida State's probably at least 3 or 4 touchdowns better than Miami right now. Fair, Matt?
I mean, here's the way I see it. You said that, basically once they opened up the competition and they said, okay, we're going to this is what happened. They let Tyler Van Dyke and Emory Williams compete in practice, both getting first-team reps, and they decided who the starter was going to be, and then that person got the Thursday and Friday reps, the Thursday reps, Friday walkthrough stuff.
Wednesday, Thursday.
I thought they told him he was the starter on Thursday, though, correct?
Tyler got the reps Tuesday. Emory got the reps Wednesday, Thursday.
Right, and they named Emory the starter on Thursday, right?
But internally, probably.
Regardless of the details in that aspect, once you open up a competition like that, the team already knows who the best quarterback is at that point, right? And if Tyler was the best quarterback, he would have been the starter. But a coach who preaches, if you're the best player, you're going to play. We play the best players. The guys who practice the best, the guys who play on Saturdays. If all of a sudden a quarterback, that's not going to be the case, then what are you teaching? They didn't have a choice. Once Emory Williams was the better quarterback in practice and they had already opened it up, they had no choice. And so Emory Williams is your starter. And to say that, it would have been such a more amazing, diverse offense with Tyler, you think that Shannon Dawson was going to let Tyler just air the ball out down the field when the guy's throwing 10 interceptions there in 4 games? And now 11-5 in 1 series in the 5th. Their whole philosophy in this game, and I predicted it going in. And, I would have predicted also a first deep pass just to say to FSU, because this is what these any team that's going to pack it in, they're always going to throw that first ball like way over everyone's head, into double coverage 40 yards down the field, just to say, hey, we're not worried. We're not going to be scared to throw it, right, from your own goal line.
Emery was making sure he didn't get intercepted.
Right when he threw that pass, everybody knows this team knew that's the last deep pass we're going to see for a long time, And it probably would have been the same with Tyler regardless, because what Miami wanted to do in this game was play to its strengths, which is smart. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just boring. The strengths are defense and the run game. And that's what Miami leaned on. And guess what? It almost worked. The defense, run game, let the other team make mistakes. Defense, run game, let the other team make mistakes. We're not going to throw interceptions. We'll try to make you do dumb things, right? And somehow, some way, when Miami was a two-plus touchdown underdog, they had a chance at the end to, and my belief, when no one's asked Mara this, but my belief is if they scored a touchdown, they would have gone for 2. So they had a chance to win on the final drive of the game. And if you told any Miami fan that was going to be the case going into the game, they would have said, I will take that. I will take that. Based on Miami being, now 2-4 in the last, since ACC play started, they're 2-4. The 2 wins in overtime. I mean, you will take that. So guess what? This conservative, boring, horrible game approach, they had to mask their offensive inadequacies in play calling and quarterback experience / consistency, not turning the ball over, and things like that. And they did that. So, I can't argue with a really just boring, awful offensive game plan that nobody wants to watch, because you know what? That's what they are. They're a team that can't pass the ball consistently. Like, that's a fact. They're an inconsistent offensive team that has to rely on an offensive line that had its worst game of the year per Pro Football Focus, not even close, and that was partially because Florida State's defensive line is really good, and because Florida State was able to pack the box successfully once they realized Miami just really can't even throw the ball, because the jury was out on Emery. Emery actually looked pretty good throwing the ball against Clemson in the fourth quarter and overtime. And you would think as a defensive coordinator, we have to be wary of that. But, Emery was a little bit off with some of his passes. Again, a true freshman, first start on the road in that atmosphere. You expect that. And the FSU defense coordinator, to his credit, in the second half just said, listen, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us throwing the ball. And they just packed it in, packed the box, stacked it against the run, and they were successful doing it. So kudos to them. But I'm sure Miami fans won't like me saying it, but I had zero problems with the Miami offensive game plan, other than the fact that I predicted what they were going to do. Unlike Gary Ferman, who said the only way they're going to win is if they air it out and throw every pass down the field and don't run the ball like crazy and don't be very conservative. Because guess what? The conservative approach was the right approach. This is not a team that was going to be able to score a lot of points down the field throwing the ball, obviously, and it would have been a blowout if they had tried to do that throughout the game.
Well, you might be right, because I'm looking at some of these numbers here for the first time. So they attempted just 6 passes beyond 9 yards of the line of scrimmage, and the only one that was completed was that miracle 85-yarder for the touchdown, where Florida State's defenders basically ran into each other.
And that was throwing 20 yards down the field, that pass, by the way. It wasn't an 85. It wasn't like a long, perfect bomb. It was a perfect pass. Don't get me wrong. But it was throwing 20 yards down the field to the right sideline.
Was it only 20? I thought it was a little
20 through the air. Yeah, 20 through the air.
But the numbers back you up, Matt. Like, I don't agree with you, but the numbers back you up. I mean, they were 0 for, other than that play, throwing the ball down the field. But I still say that if that's what it was going to be, like, I don't understand how that's okay. Like, I don't,
Well, remember, FSU's strength is its cornerbacks. You say Miami, you're harping on the Miami receivers couldn't get open. That's the best cornerback core arguably in the nation. I mean, if Miami was getting open against those guys, they're NFL level players. So, you don't face those types of teams every single week. To think you're going to just magically get the top, free agent quarterback, 2 top free agent wide receivers, have the money for all that, plus other money to pay all the.
Florida State did it.
That. Everybody has the same amount of money. It's not like the
Florida State got that kid from Michigan State. Why can't Miami get a kid like that?
Right. Well, sometimes you got to pay for them. And it almost is like a salary cap, but it just seems like a lot of programs have the same salary cap as Miami. Last year, I think Miami was ahead of the curve. But that sort of has dried up a little bit. That company isn't, it's come back a little bit, but still, if it wasn't for a 25-to-1 split, it would still be 50 cents or less on the, open at $10. So, there are some issues there, but overall, the collective has really come through, which is great because you need to be competitive in NIL or you have no chance. And Miami is certainly competitive in NIL from everything that Gary and I have been hearing. But I don't know if they're competitive to the point where you get 2 free agent wide receivers and a free agent quarterback. That's a lot of money in addition to what they're already shelling out.
People who are giving money away to the program have to keep giving money away to the program.
Correct.
They can afford to do it, or they wouldn't be doing it.
They're going to be getting some calls from some people with their hands out for sure.
Well, they can afford to do it. Like I know most of the people that are involved, and they can afford to do it. It's not impacting them at all. But again, these people, like I don't know too many people like just like giving money away, and especially if they're not seeing a return on their investment, so to speak, which for them is the joy of seeing the team win. But again, I'm not sure that they should have had the expectations to be much higher than what they're getting this year. I mean, the program is it's not debatable. The program is far better now than it was a year ago. Now, Matt, I'm diving into some of this here as we go here because I was traveling a lot of the day yesterday. The offensive line got its worst grades of the year. That's kind of shocking, but now that I'm thinking about it, they had the flash of those big running plays, but there were a lot of plays in there that were not real good. And when you're grading every single play. So I think the bad plays probably dragged down the good plays. Going into the game, maybe underestimated Florida State on the defensive line. Because when you think about it, Miami's offensive line did struggle more than it had.
And I'm going to look up right now. I didn't look up. A good reporter would have looked this up already, but I was going to look up the yards after contact because that's always a key area when your offensive line, really, I think they average 3.9 yards in the game, right, per carry. And as a team, they averaged yards after contact. I just looked it up. They averaged 2.5 yards after contact. So, 1.4 yards on average, is what the offensive line was getting a push before anybody got touched on, just on average. And Miami did have some longer gains. So, an average run was certainly less than that, probably less than a yard. So essentially the Miami offensive line was not getting a big push. The other factor here is, you're great. You're looking at the overall stats, but really, if you look at the game itself, Miami did run a lot of 12 personnel. They did a lot of, jumbo type sets because they really were trying to establish the run. And the way they do that is with tight end help, running backs and blocking, receivers helping and blocking, all of them involved in blocking, honestly. So that can mask a little bit of the offensive line's failures. If for instance, if a guard gets beat, but Mark Fletcher picks him up, it's not going to look awful on film to you or I, or in the game to you or I. But when the Pro Football Focus people look at it, that's a -2 for that offensive guard, right? Grade-wise. And so those grades basically are indicative that more than in any other game, the offensive linemen struggled with their assignments based on what Pro Football Focus expected or thought that particular play should have had X as a result, is essentially what it said. And we broke it down in the story yesterday by run blocking, pass blocking, and overall grade. And I think in each of those areas, 3 different linemen had their worst grades of the year. And I think only 2. So there was 15 different categories, right? 5 for overall grade, 5 for run blocking, and 5 for pass blocking with the 5 linemen. And out of those 15 opportunities, only 2 were above their average grade for the year. And both of those, if I remember correctly, were just barely one above the mean, like not top 3, but 4th best of the year. So, they really had a tough time. And again, part of that is just Florida State having really good defensive front.
So I'm stunned at how bad these grades were on Saturday. I thought Miami played a relatively decent game. When you look at the grades that came out of the game, they were horrible. I mean,
some are, yeah.
Terrible. I'm stunned at how bad they were, but I'm reflecting back now and I'm thinking, well, you know what? They did struggle a little bit, but even the defensive grades, They're obviously better than offense, but they're not like off the charts or anything. As well as I thought the defense played. So look, we could talk about this Florida State experience for forever, Matt. I don't know if we're leaving any issues uncovered here, but the bottom line is that Miami got to see where it needs to go, and it also saw how much ground it has made up from last year to this year when it wasn't even competitive in the Florida State game. And now Florida State's a better team than it was a year ago, and Miami was competitive in the Florida State game, and that shows you they are making up ground fast, but they need to keep the foot on the gas pedal for sure. I don't think that's going to be a problem for Mario Cristobal. I just hope I don't get yelled at anymore, Matt. I didn't like getting
you want to get yelled at. You can get yelled at. You can get yelled at now. And by the way, great point on FSU. I meant to mention that last year to this year in these two games. Great analysis on that. I agree 100%. But here, you want to get yelled at? How about this? Agree or disagree? Shannon Dawson should look long and hard at film of New Orleans Saints tight end Taysom Hill playing quarterback, and should do some of that for Ja'Carri Brown. Agree or disagree?
I think that right now you're trying to get good at playing offense as opposed to trying to like
wrong answer. You're getting yelled at. Congratulations.
I'm not bothered by the lack of stupid gimmicks, although I would like to have seen. Have we even seen one trick play this year?
That's not a gimmick, by the way. That helps so much in the red zone. I don't know how much Saints stuff you've watched. I watched them quite a bit because I have two fantasy players on my team from the Saints. And the way they use Taysom Hill the way they use Taysom Hill, they like to bring him in a quarterback in the red zone. And he's fantastic. He can throw. He doesn't throw often, but he can throw. He's played quarterback. And he can just, it's a direct snap to him. He can just run. He can hand off. There are so many different ways that he can spread the field and do different things in the red zone that I just don't understand. When you got a guy like that, you have no numbers at quarterback. Offense is struggling. I just don't get why he doesn't have at least some sort of package in the last 4 games to get him involved. I mean, it is a little, to me, it's a little mind-boggling. But
Matt, we didn't have a hurry-up offense. Think about that.
You don't have a 4-minute offense. Am I wrong about that? Offense. You don't have a 10-minute offense, and they don't have a 60-minute offense.
I mean, I don't think I'm wrong about that. Like, did you see a hurry-up offense?
No, and I think maybe I don't want to make excuses. Maybe some of it is just they felt like Emory. Emory. I don't know how much they prepared him prior to this week because he had 1 week of practice for Clemson. And other than that, the way Miami does it, they're not splitting reps with the first team in practice. It's game week. So I don't know that he's fully acclimated as a true freshman to run every single scenario quickly,
right?
Like he needs to. So
if you're sitting there saying, we don't want to overload Emory, we're not going to put in a 2-minute offense, you can't go play the Florida State game like that? I'm sorry.
I don't just – the offense, this is again comes back to me saying there needs to be a new coordinator because – there are just so many instances, not just in this game, Gary, but throughout the year where you just throw your hands up like, what are they doing? Even at the end of the Clemson game when they had Tyler Van Dyke, who you say, oh, he would have been so different. Like, remember at the end of the Clemson game regulation, they just ran the ball and ran out the clock with like a minute and a half left and just needed a field goal to win. They decided to go to overtime from their own, 25, 30-yard line, whatever it was. I mean, it's a vague memory for me because it was a while ago. But I remember they had the ball. Maybe it was under a minute left. And they certainly had at least 5 or 6 plays that I clearly remember they could have had to try and get into field goal range. And I said, we'll just go to overtime and take our chances. So for you to say, like, they would have done something magnificently different, it's just they've done a number of mind-boggling things to me on offense, which it just doesn't seem like the team's fully prepared for every scenario and situation that they should be. They seem to have a very base set of route trees they run. I mean, the first back shoulder throws I've seen since I don't even know when were in the final drive back to Colby Young for really good gains. And then the FSU defender guessed on one and probably should have got a pass interference call on the third one. And that was the last one they tried. But like, can you tell me how many back shoulder throws you've seen, Gary, with Shannon Dawson? I think those were the first 2 I can remember. I mean, and that's a key part of an offense. I mean, that draws pass interference calls. It's virtually unstoppable, and it's a very safe pass because it's very difficult to intercept those. And when you have a guy who's thrown interception after interception, I mean, I don't know why that didn't show up until the final drive against Colby Young, unless I'm like not remembering. And I did try to put Advil in my fridge today instead of back in the cabinet, so maybe I'm just forgetting things, but that's a true story. But do you remember a lot of back shoulder throws before those two?
No.
So
I was gonna read this stuff about game time today. I think I'm gonna move the game time spot back to tomorrow. We'll talk about game time tomorrow. But if you need tickets tonight, go to gametime.co or the Game Time app. They'll take care of you. And we'll talk more about game time tomorrow because there's just too much going on here that we have to unwrap. And, I said I don't want to get yelled at, Matt. Like, all right, so today, and this will be on the website midday, we get to talk to Mario and we get to talk to the coordinators, okay? Mario, I don't know what new. I mean, he obviously actually was very gracious with his time after the game. He talked for over 10 minutes. He had a very tough moment for himself. And
by the way, kudos to you again for the question. But I'm only interrupting you so people can yell at me for a change. But he has this stand-up persona, and I love Mario. Everyone knows I love Mario to death. We go back years and years and years. But it bothers me when he sat up there and right before your question, this SID I think was trying to usher. You were at the game, I was not. But the SID was trying to usher him, I believe. And like last question, coach is done or whatever. And Mario's like, no, I'll stay as long as you guys need. Like he's a stand-up guy. He's going to answer all the questions off this tough loss. Like, good for him. That's
almost like medicine for him.
And then you ask the question, and he's like, and he's all angry at the question. I mean, if you're going to sit up there and tell
I didn't take it personally, though. I understood.
That's not the point. Doesn't matter if you asked it or anybody asked it. The point is, he wanted to take accountability, just like he wants his team to take accountability. And when you do something wrong or you lose a game, you take accountability and you say what's wrong. And then when he was asked what's wrong, he blew up and wouldn't answer the question. And to me, that was disingenuous. Like, if you're going to sit up there and say, I'll take all the questions you have, I'm here for you.
I'm going to take all the questions. So I'm sitting there thinking about, okay, what do we have to write about? So
that bothered me that he did that.
I knew
he was upset, and he was upset, so that's his excuse. I get it. But, if you're going to sit up there and say, I'm here to answer all the questions and take a beating, take the beating. Don't say, beating's on you, joke's on you. Don't do that.
I knew everybody was going to be upset about the passing game, so I asked him that question so he could explain to the Canes Nation what is going on with the passing game, because it just doesn't look representative. It looks horrendous. I mean,
he reacted as if you had asked the question the way he knew what you were thinking, Eric, because he knows you very well too. He knows what you were saying. You were saying your passing game sucks. What the F is the problem? That's what he heard. That's what I know you meant. You meant, and that's why he responded that way.
3 years ago, Manny Diaz got fired, okay, and the team was horrendous, but we still had 350 yards passing from Tyler Van Dyke to Charleston Rambo. I mean, we still had a passing game. Like, right now, we do not have a passing game. We threw for 160 against Clemson. Tyler had 160 against NC State. We would have had 120 yesterday if it weren't for that one play where they ran into each other. There's no passing game, and it is an absolute pertinent question and issue. And which leads me to what I was saying. Like, now we got to go talk to Shannon Dawson today, and we will have that on the website, in the afternoon. And it's like, what do you say to Shannon Dawson? And I'm trying to think like how you can phrase this in a delicate way. Like, I think the fans need an explanation. What has happened to a passing game at Miami?
All right, let's do a little exercise here. I'm going to be Mario Cristobal. This is the press conference after the game. You ask me your question, I will respond. Go ahead.
I said, I think if I remember correctly, I said, Mario,
ask me I'm here for all your questions. I'm here for you.
I think I said, how much?
Ferman, you're next. Mr. Ferman, ask your question, please.
I think what I said was, how much of you guys had to dial back the passing game because of the issues that you've been having at quarterback? I mean, I felt like that was the fairest way to ask the question.
I was going to do a Mario Cristobal impersonation, but I guess not. Listen, brother. F you. Next question. Susan, you have much better questions. Yes, Susan.
No, but like,
Adam, your turn. Adam, you have great questions.
Matt, I can't. I don't know that has the Miami passing game ever disappeared like this. I mean, I'm trying to think back. I mean,
we've had Freeman is always the one that comes to mind.
Kirby Freeman, Frank Costa, maybe did it ever get that bad? I'd have to go back and research. But the passing game has disappeared. Okay, it has gone bye-bye, and it is absolutely a pertinent question, and it's a pertinent question for Shannon Dawson today. I just don't know, how you ask it without being totally offensive. It's like, I mean, nerves are frayed right now. This is a rough patch, and the amazing thing is we're sitting there after Texas A&M, and there was no way to see this coming. Like after Texas A&M, I'm like, wow, this Shannon Dawson offense, I like it. It looked really good that day. They were well prepared. He had wrinkles. Remember the play? He had Jacoby George motion towards the center, and then quickly cut back outside to take a pass that they scored a touchdown on. I mean, there were like wrinkles and different things that made the offense look really good. We have not seen any of that since. Even in like North Carolina, I thought was acceptable. Temple was okay, but like ever since North Carolina, it has been abysmal. Abysmal, and I don't quite understand it. How it's gotten so bad, and how Tyler went so bad, and everything. But it is a pertinent issue if we're going to talk about the team, talk about the program, and do it in a very open way. So we'll see. We'll see how today goes. But we'll have all that coverage for you guys, including Lance Guidry, who can come in to visit the media today and take some major bows, because he is really, really, really distinguishing himself this year. Play here, play there. That's going to happen. But for the most part, he has really, really, really been game planning extremely well.
By the way, if you're complaining about the passing game, so I just decided to look it up for fun. So November 3rd, 2007, NC State versus Miami in the Orange Bowl. Okay. Kirby Freeman finished passing 1 for 14. That's not a joke. He was 1 for 14 with 3 interceptions.
There you go. And he still beat Florida State that year, right?
And you know what? I don't remember, but that game was. Guess what? In that game, Miami ran for over 300 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good memory, Matt. Yeah, it had to be.
I'm reading it up. I didn't remember it. I had to look it up. So.
It had to be one of the quarterbacks that we've never seen again from the time they graduated. Frank Costa comes to mind. Kirby Freeman comes to mind. Ryan Clement comes to mind. He's never been seen again. Kyle Wright has never been seen around here again, I don't think. I mean, it's been a rough stretch, okay, for the last 20 years. But man, oof. Anyway, all right, other things on the website today. We do have some recruiting coverage. We take a look at Jeremiah Smith's time at Florida State. Have not had a chance to talk to him yet because he's been traveling, and they stayed up there on Sunday to go to Florida State's practice. But he did talk to our we'll call them our brothers at War Chant, and because we love those guys. And no, we do. The guys at War Chant, they're good dudes. Listen, at the beginning, it was a little bit difficult, like way back, but we became friends, and they're all good dudes now.
What I remember about Gene Williams, and Gene Williams does a fantastic job, probably the best of any site. But
he's the best. He's the best at the best
best in the business. But with that said, he definitely, he's a reporter / fan, because when I remember covering a game with him when I first met him, and it was in Miami, probably at the old Orange Bowl, and there's no cheering allowed in the press box. We're supposed to be professionals. We're not allowed to cheer for a team. You can't even wear a Miami hat or a Florida State hat or a Miami shirt or an FSU shirt. You're supposed to be an impartial spectator and report the news, which of course none of us do. Yes, we do. But Florida State was one of these games where Florida State somehow had a big play at the end, and he starts going crazy in the press box. And I have never before and never since seen that. They tell you they're going to kick you out. They're going to revoke your press pass if you ever do that. I've never seen that before. But, Gene, he can get away with that because he's a legend. That's the truth. He is a legend, and he also cheers in the press box.
Well, they have the most rabid following of any school in the country up there at Florida State and War Chant, and a really good community. And it's to Gene's credit that he's built it. And like I said, as the years went by and we get to know those guys, they're good dudes, so it's all good. But they did talk to Jeremiah Smith and got some interesting comments from him. And so we put it all together in a story that's on the website today. Make sure you check it out. It is not looking good for Miami there, but we are going to try to talk to Jeremiah and maybe members of his family as well this week. So hopefully we'll have more on that. Let's see. We also have an update on American Heritage 2024 Wisconsin commit Xavier Lucas. He's made game day visits to Miami and Florida State. Tells us his impressions. Miami offered El Dorado, Kansas Butler Community College 6'6", 295-pound defensive tackle Malcolm Alcorn Crowder last week. Canes are looking for help along the interior of the defensive line in this 2024 class. Miami's very high on this list of potential schools, so check that story out as well. The Miami basketball team returns to the floor this evening. They're undefeated thus far, playing really, really good basketball. They play FIU tonight. So if you're not doing anything and you want to go out to the Watsco Center and see your Canes basketball team, do so. I'll throw this out there right now. The first person who emails me at CaneSport@yahoo.com who wants to take a couple kids to the game, I will give you my tickets. I have 4 seats for tonight's FIU game, and I would be happy to send you and a few kids to that basketball game tonight. So email me, CaneSport@yahoo.com. First come, first served. And hopefully we'll get some kids out to see the Canes basketball team. All right, Matt, have I left anything out? I hope I gave you, we're 55 minutes, almost 56 minutes in. I hope I gave you at least 50% of the talking time. Have I left anything out?
I mean, I'd say you hit on about as many points as Emory Williams did. Congratulations. Same percent. You hit on the same percent. You got same percent of wins today in our conversations. Congratulations. At least it wasn't Kirby Freeman. Could have been worse.
All right. Well,
and by the way, I thought Emory played fine for a true freshman. I know fans think he didn't play that well. He's a true freshman. You know, give the guy, cut the poor guy some slack. He put his heart on the line for the Miami Hurricanes.
And things are moving
really. I want to reiterate
fast.
that.
Things are
Be
moving
nice to him. Be nice. Yeah. I'm a nice person.
Well,
everyone knows that.
Be mean to him now. He's going into surgery today to fix his broken arm. Like, who's going to be mean to Emory Williams?
I don't know. I posted he has a bright future, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "He's playing in 2 games against the 2 best teams."
Emory is going to have a big cast on his arm. He's going to get to walk around campus for the next couple months and have all the beautiful girls at UM signing his cast and all kinds of stuff. I mean, he'll be okay. Emory he'll be okay. So anyway,
and by the way, the nicest young man in the world. When you ask him a question, every question you ask him, he goes, "Great question." No matter, it could be the worst question in the world. He says that after every single question he's asked, and you guys will see that if he ever does a press conference.
He's great. He's absolutely great. He really is.
Yeah.
We've loved every second of Emory Williams, going back to when he was a recruit. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. I have a question and answer session with the fans on our message boards at CaneSport.com. Which, if there's any issue that didn't get covered in today's show, is certainly covered in that long thread we got going there. So check that out on the message board. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you're on YouTube right now, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, come help us make up some ground with War Chant. Please, we got a long way to go, but you can help by coming and joining our community at CaneSport.com. We do everything we can do every single day to help enhance your fan experience with our coverage, with our shows. And we've got a great group of fans. They get a little ornery with each other from time to time, but it's all in the spirit of being Canes fans. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.